The games I look back on that hurt the most aren't the ones where I fluked the 8 in early or lost by a ball. They're the ones where I was nervous or angry or put off. The games where my head wasn't 100% focused on the table and the game at hand.
I basically ate shit in League for 4 years up until now. I played sub 500 pool. I had some really bad nights, some real frustrating nights, some really good nights too. So the bumps that I've encountered along the way, I sort of want to draw to your attention in the hopes to globally reduce world frustration, one pool player at a time.
In this video, I'll go through 8 different do's, don'ts, techniques, whatever you want to call them, to try and help you not make the same mistakes I did. First of all, let's take a look at how an unsound mental game actually presents itself in your game. There are a few major signs that your mental game is not where it needs to be. The first is jumping up during a shot, which is to say, moving any part of your body other than your stroking arm while your shot is in progress. Jumping up ensures that your stroke will be untrue and your shot will rarely turn out the way you designed it. Jumping up is the most common mistake I think all of us make. Another sign is a jerky stroke, usually brought on by feeling uncomfortable in some way. This can look like a stuttering stroke, a decelerated stroke, or not shooting cleanly through the cue ball. In other words, you're violating one of my favorite pool maxims: stroke it, don't poke it. Another common thing that you can look for is if you've just shot a shot and you stand back up and you say, well, why did I do that? I didn't actually think through that, did I? I didn't get everything sorted out before I got down on it. I just kind of shot it to shoot it.
You should never do that if you're actually playing a competitive game. Bottom line, all these things happen because your head's not in the game.
So let's get into the list. Number 1, play the table, not your opponent.
Starting out, I did approach games differently if I was playing some guy who looked geriatric versus some guy who goes to the gym every day. I've played giant macho dudes, I've played tiny women, I've played old guys who look like they shouldn't even be able to walk, much less shoot, much less kick my ass at pool. You know, I've beat some, I've lost to some. I'm here to tell you, ultimately, whoever that is does not make a difference to your game. Don't be intimidated, don't be overconfident. Anybody can shoot these balls in some sort of position. Anybody can play a safety. My grandma can play a safety on me. A guy who always kicks my ass in the league can play a safety on me. Ultimately, it'll be the same lay on the table. Whether my grandma shot it or whether this guy shot it, it doesn't make a difference. Again, you're not playing a person, you're playing the position that they leave you on the table.
Number 2, play in your own time. Take as much time as you feel you need to get the shot off properly. Here are a few reasons why people fail to play in their own time and rush their shots. If your opponent is a particularly fast shooter, it's natural to want to get up and match their pace. You could be playing in a packed bar and you have to ask someone to move to get at your shot. Trust me, that person will be happiest if you make the shot, which will only happen if you take your time. You can even credit them with the assist afterward. If your opponent's been running the table for the last 10 minutes and you're so excited to get back to the table that you completely forsake your pre-shot routine. I see this happen so often. Somebody will get up, they're just so excited to get to the table, and then they just completely whiff on their first shot because they didn't go through their process.
Oh yeah, and then my favorite one. My friends and I call it the same guy award. So you can make some totally kick-ass 1 in a million shot, and what makes it a great shot is you've left yourself a very easy shot on the next ball. Then you miss that easy shot. Your mind is ahead of where your body is at that point. You're thinking about that shot, you're thinking about the next shot, you're thinking about the shot you just made. None of these things I've listed have much to do with you actually shooting that shot properly, do they? What somebody else did, what you're done doing, what somebody behind you is doing. None of that has to do with you. If you ever feel like you've been down on a shot too long, or you get down and something feels wrong, Don't be afraid to stand back up, restart everything, restart that pre-shot routine, and feel comfortable when you're going down.
Number 3, the game exists in a vacuum.
When you're playing a serious game that you really care about the outcome for, your brain should be 100% on that table. Your team is telling a hilarious story over here, somebody's ordering your favorite drink over here, your favorite song just came on, your team just hit a home run. Anything that happened before now, the way this guy kicked your ass the last time you played, the way you kicked his ass, none of that matters.
Right now, you need to learn how to block all of that out for the next half hour, 45 minutes, whatever you're playing. This game exists in a vacuum. Your brain needs to be as close to 100% invested as possible on what's going on between those rails when it's game time. Number 4, don't get fucked up.
I've done it. I know a lot of people who've done it a lot. Don't get fucked up if you're gonna try and play pool. If you're gonna try and play a game that you actually care about. I've played people who've honestly, they've just been falling down drunk before in league games. I've been falling down drunk before in league games. If you're gonna spend your time, if you're gonna burn an entire evening doing this, you gotta give yourself a better chance to win than that. It's very easy to say, oh, I can get this drunk or I can get this stoned or whatever. And yeah, if you can get that drunk and get that stoned, sometimes there is that magic window again that we all love. And you can look back and say, oh yeah, I was nice and loose because, I had 4 beers and I had a joint, whatever. The thing about those windows is that that's what they are, they're windows. They only last so long. Basically, relying on chemicals to make you good at pool isn't gonna make you, in the long run, good at pool. I will say, as far as the weed thing goes, a lot of people I know smoke. I smoke and play sometimes. Smoking too much weed all the time playing pool is gonna make you jumpy as hell. It absolutely fractures your attention span. You just feel so much more easily distracted. A lot of people view it as some sort of performance enhancing drug. If you use it long enough, it becomes way more of a detriment than anything else.
Number 5, don't get hungry. Have a plan for how you're gonna eat. I usually start league about 7 p.m. and we get out at midnight or 1. Usually I find myself hungry at some point. There's nothing worse than going out and playing on a full stomach, having just crushed a quarter pounder or something and you're in a complete food coma. Or vice versa, if your blood sugar is low and you're falling out, you're not gonna play your best game. I'll always pack some sort of emergency protein bar or something like that in my pool bag. Having the proper energy makes a huge difference in how you approach the game. Admittedly, this is a paraphrase of the 40-year-old virgin. Number 6, don't put the game on a pedestal.
Oh, I've been really guilty of this one in the past. I know some people who are going through it right now. If you really love pool and you're really getting into it for the first time, you just really look forward to those league nights. You look forward to going out. And I swear to God, if you're at work all day, bored off your ass on your computer, just thinking about how the night is gonna go, you're just building that game up and up and up. When you finally get there, you really do get these like bursts of adrenaline. You get very nervous because all day, all week, whatever, you've built this game up as something that's really important to you. So you get really nervous about it. I think at this point in my life, I played something like 110, 120 league games. You can go on the app and see there are people who've played 500, 1,000. After a certain point of playing these league games, you kind of realize you have to treat them a little disposably. Basically, if you plan on being in this for the long haul, you're going to end up doing this hundreds, maybe thousands of times. So you really can't place too much individual importance on a random Wednesday night game. You can't put the game on a pedestal because when you finally get there, everything is just going to be so heightened and elevated for something that, in the grand scheme of things, unless you really screw up or you really do well, you're going to forget about this game in a year or so.
Number 7, be a good teammate and be a good opponent. I suppose this isn't mandatory to playing good pool, but it does contribute to how you approach it. It helps you bring yourself and everyone else up if you support your other teammates. Watch them play if you can't warm up on a practice table. Hang out, cheer them on. Collaborate with them on shots. If you're playing and you miss a shot and you don't know why, go ahead and sit down and talk to your higher skill level teammates and figure out what you did wrong.
Take coaches when it makes sense. Don't be offended if you're offered a coach at the same time. Oh, and very importantly, if you do take a coach, oh man, I always rush these. My friend will say, hit the ball there, do this, do that. You go, okay. And I do it, and I don't do it. I get so amped up that I have the answer, that I don't go through that pre-shot routine, I don't get comfortable, I don't find the form, I don't find the touch. Never rush after a coach. Take the coach, think about it, do it in your own time, and feel comfortable with it. As far as being a good opponent, I mean, bad blood just doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody play better. I've developed friendships with players on other teams. I've had players from other teams come on my team and end up being my teammate. So yeah, being a dick in general doesn't help anybody and really may come back to bite you in the end.
If you notice any of the things that I've already talked about happening to you, your game is going off the rails. You need to have a plan for when things go wrong so that you can try and regain your form as closely and quickly as possible. Here's mine. First thing I do is stand up, pull my shoulders back, take a really deep breath, and exhale. And then I remember the table's mine, right now. I'm supposed to take my time and figure out what I need to do to shoot this shot correctly and set up for the next one. I'll remind myself from the outset, I need to stay down on the shot, especially if I jumped up right before this one. You need to do all of your thinking while you're standing up before you get down on the shot. Find your angle, find your point of contact, figure everything out as far as the form and technique goes. Personally, I screw up speed and touch the most, so I really put a lot of thought into exactly how hard or soft I'm going to hit the cue ball. I always make sure that I can feel the force of gravity pulling down on the balance point of the cue and make sure that it is couched just perfectly correctly in my hand. I remind myself I'm shooting through the ball, not just tapping it. Again, it's a stroke, not a poke. I remind myself to stay down once again, just for good measure. If it goes in or it doesn't, I tell myself that it was just one shot and it's over with. There's plenty more to do, and that's it.
Develop your own plan and be aware of when things are going off the rails and when you need to institute that plan. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, or if you have more tips, tricks, do's, don'ts to add, I'd love to hear them in the comments. Take care.